I hope all is going well and you're having a beautiful, blessed day. Today, I want to hang out with you and talk to you about Cut Loose, the second book from Ali Stroker and Stacy Davidowitz. As you guys may or may not know, the first book, The Chance to Fly, was about Nat Beacon, a teenager who moved to Saddle Stream, New Jersey. And in her move, she started a new school. But when she moved, it was the summer. So she met up with this group of kids called the Broadway Bounders. And in this first book, they called themselves the Ozbounders because the focus, their musical focus was Wicked. And so throughout the book, friendships developed with each character of Broadway Bounders. And if you haven't read this, if you haven't read The Chance to Fly yet, please skip this. Please skip this episode because you need to read this book. And this episode is going to include some spoilers. I can't talk today. But this episode is going to include spoilers of The Chance to Fly before I get into the review of Cut Loose. Or it goes along with the review of Cut Loose, I should say. Okay, so at the end of The Chance to Fly, the Ozbounders put on a production of Wicked in Nat's backyard because their school has had a fire and there's fire damage. I had said previously that the school burned down, but I'm not sure that that's what happened. I think it just had fire damage and they lost all the props and all the costumes. So the Ozbounders took it upon themselves. Keep in mind these kids are teenagers. They're young teenagers, about 13, 14 years old. And they take it upon themselves with no adult help to put on this production as they wanted to in the first place. However, a couple of the people that are in the production drop out, and Nat replaces the friend of hers that was going to play Elphaba, and she plays Elphaba, and that is the first time ever. I'm going on a side note here, but that is the first time ever it is seen that somebody who has a disability has the ability to play this role. And another side note, Broadway has never done that before. So that is one of my personal biggest dreams, is to, one, play Elphaba. Two, I want to see more representation on Broadway, as I'm sure we all do. All of us in the disability community are cheering for Broadway to continue what has been started. But getting back to the book. So, it is the summer of the year that Nat moves, and we're not exactly sure what year that is, but she is 13 at that point. the production goes off without a hitch. Now, leading into the next book, it is the fall, the start of a new school year. And Nat nervously attends her new school. But a week before school starts, Nat, who grew up in California, goes to her first Broadway show, actually on Broadway, and it is a production of Dear Evan Hansen. So she goes to the production of GEH, and at this production, she starts to think about what life is going to be like at her new school, and will she in fact get the opportunity to audition for any musicals or any plays at school. And when she gets to her new school, which is Martin Luther King Middle School, she finds out that it is weird being the new kid. It's always weird being the new kid, but it's extra weird being the new kid when you have a disability. And I, as well as many other of my friends, can speak from experience. Because you don't want to look. There's a point in your life where you know you're disabled, but you don't want to look it. You don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. So Nat, knowing this about herself, or feeling this about herself, I should say, she goes to her new school dressed as she would dress for her school in California. A tie-dye sweatshirt and some cute jean shorts. And that's how she would dress in California. But she quickly finds out, rolling down the hall, that this school, all of the kids dress in a pretty much monotone color palette, and that the girls always wear these knockoff Converse sneakers. I'm going to say the name of the shoes, but these knockoff Converse sneakers that are white and have the star on them. And then they wear crop tops, jeans and crop tops. And so Nat, filling out a place, meets a friend. I don't know if it is Lou or Prue, but she meets these twins named Lucy and Prudence. And I don't remember which one was the nicer one. But one of the twins offers her one of her crop tops. And I believe she borrowed the shoes as well. I don't know if she bought the knockoff sneakers, but so she has these clothes on, and she is feeling like she's fitting in. But then it gets to the point where Nat comes into meetings with adults that treat her like a baby. Namely Mrs. Becky, and I don't know if I could say we've all had a Mrs. Becky, but I definitely have had a couple Mrs. Beckys in my life. And they all haven't been named Mrs. Becky, but that's an aside. Actually, a side note, the lady whose actual name was Mrs. Becky in my life was one of the most charming, genuine, ladies that I could ever come across, and she wasn't from my school, she was from my church. But anyway, let's get moving. Okay, so Mrs. Becky is the aide that is in charge of the elevator. And she's the nurse. So Mrs. Becky, the nurse, is in charge of letting people up and down the lift. It's not a full elevator, it's a lift. And she has another student that she watches over. His name is Elliot. And Elliot has a disability. He uses a power chair and he's physically nonverbal. Now, you guys have heard me. If you have heard this podcast, you've heard me say that being physically nonverbal doesn't mean that you are, in fact, nonverbal. Because any student, anybody, any human can have a voice. It just takes different forms at different times. So, Elliot is physically nonverbal. He doesn't have a physical voice. I mean, he doesn't use a physical voice, but what he uses to communicate is an iPad that has a communication program on it. And I really resonated with this part of the book because I was in that space too that Nat was in, trying to fit in junior high and high school. And I would look at the kids that didn't have a physical voice, that were physically nonverbal, and I would say, well, at least I'm not like them. And so that is an attitude that Nat falls into. But then she gets to know Elliot and gets to know that Elliot has a personality that is not hiding, but has a personality that is waiting for Nat to discover. Because Nat is really not asking questions of Elliot. So when she finally does, she finds out that, hey, this is a kid I could have gotten to know all along. But let's backtrack for a minute, because Nat actually does find the musical that she can audition for, and she auditions for Footloose. And so when she auditioned for Footloose, she was thinking about playing the lead, Ariel Moore, but also she was thinking, maybe I'm not going to play Ariel. Maybe I'm going to play somebody's mom, or just a kid on the street, or one of the main character's friends. And so Nat, at this point, when she auditioned, she doesn't have the help that she had in the first book from Hudson. And honestly, you guys, I messed up on some names in my first review. But her friend, the friend that helped her out with the audition for Wicked, his name was Hudson. The friend that helped her with the dance routine that proved that she was able to dance in Wicked. So Hudson is no longer friends with Nat really at this point when they get to school. They're friends in the beginning of the book when they're at DEH in the beginning of the book, and that's the week before school starts. But when they get to school, Hudson has a crush on somebody he goes to school with. And so Nat focuses on what she thinks are her problems and isn't really a good friend to Hudson at that point. So Nat doesn't have the help from Hudson that she wants. And things start to take turns and go not in a way that Nat wants it to. But Nat, thinking she needs to be popular, goes to the popular girl who says, "Oh yeah, I'll help you with the routines and stuff." Her name is Sky. And Sky is the, keep in mind there are spoilers in this episode. So if you don't want any spoilers, turn this episode off. Okay, Sky is the captain of the kickline team. The kickline team is like I would venture to think it was like a step team, or kind of like the high school version of the Rockettes. Which brings me to the point to say that Sky's dream is to audition for the Rockettes when she is out of high school. So everybody thinks that Sky is going to get the lead role of Ariel Moore in Footloose. But what ends up happening, and I'm cutting to the chase here, is that Nat ends up getting the role of Ariel in Footloose. And so a lot of things take place where Nat, after her first performance, is talked about by a group, and Nat overhears what happens or what is said. And she begins to doubt herself. She begins to doubt her abilities to fit in by her merit and be worthy, actually worthy of doing this role. So throughout the book, she has to deal with whether she wants to fit in or not. And she makes wrong decisions on so many levels. She makes wrong decisions about so many things. And at the end of the book, we see that Nat is the perfect Ariel, and that Hudson is the perfect Ren. Because another spoiler is that Hudson wanted to audition for Ren with Nat. But Nat, being a student at a new school and going to school with Malik, her boyfriend, automatically assumed that Hudson would be there for Nat and Malik to coach them through their audition as Ariel and Ren. But that ends up happening. But Hudson hurtfully walks out in Nat's room and says, "Okay, you guys are ready, you handle this." And so that's what causes the rift between Nat and Hudson, actually. And so when that is caused, we find out as well that that Malik is very much into playing with his band. It's called Savage Cabbage. And I'm basically telling you the story here instead of doing a review, but I wanted to do this way. So Malik is all into his band Savage Cabbage, and Savage Cabbage is gearing up to audition for Battle of the Bands. At the same time that Nat is gearing up to put on Footloose at her school and see if Footloose is able to go to the Timmies, which is kind of like, or it's not kind of like, it is the middle school version of the Jimmies. The Jimmy Awards are a real life high school competition for performing arts schools that have drama departments. So Nat wants to see if her school can go to the Timmies. And so that is her sole focus. 1, being popular, and 2, going to the Timmies are her sole focus. So, throughout the book, Nat quickly finds out that being popular and being a good friend cannot, in her world, can't coexist. Because if you're popular, in this case, you're mean. And if you want to care about your friends, you gotta, like I said, it's in this case, you gotta really think about, do I want to be popular or do I want to be genuine with my friends? So Nat quickly finds out that she wants to be a genuine friend. And she does the work to be that friend and to reconcile her relationships. But going back to what was said about Nat, the adults in charge of Footloose, they find out that things are being said about Nat, and things are said about Nat in the auditorium in front of the teachers. So the teacher throws the popular kids out of the Timmy's competition, and Nat has to come up with a way in order to stay in the Timmy's competition, and she gets together with her best friends, Savannah, Jacqueline, and Ray. So Savannah, Jack, and Ray. And they do a new rendition of Holding Out for a Hero, and they include Hudson in the song Almost Paradise. And they win an award. They win a Timmy Award, but I forgot what award they won. I think it was Best Ensemble. I'm pretty sure it was Best Ensemble. They win their Timmy Award. And when they win their Timmy Award, Nat goes up to the stage, but she can't get on stage. Which is a heartbreaking reality for many of us in high school. I know, or junior high rather. I know for me that when I was in junior high, I was one of the kids that was told, if you want to participate, you need to participate from the floor. and not be on stage, because the adults that run the school will not allow it. Okay, so Nat comes up against inaccessibility in this theater, and not only does she accept her award with grace, she actually gives Broadway a piece of her mind, and says what needs to be said about Broadway and accessibility. She basically called Broadway out and said that they need to be more accessible to everybody, not just people that could walk. And so, if you guys don't know, Ali Stroker, who is a co-author and the narrator of this book when it is in audio form, was the first woman who uses a wheelchair to be on Broadway, and the first woman who uses a wheelchair on Broadway to win a Tony. So a lot of this is taken from Ali's life as well, Ali's life experience. And so this particular book, as well as The Chance to Fly, gives people a picture of what life could be like for others when they're willing to change their minds and look at things a different way. And I'm not quoting Wicked, that just ended up coming out of my mouth. But when you could look at things a different way and include everybody, find a way to include everybody, things are a lot more fun. And so what I loved about this book is the fact that the main character was a young woman of courage that was able to speak her mind. And I'm not using courage as a euphemism. It does take courage to speak up. But I really appreciated that about this book. And I really appreciated the fact that it touched on so much that we in the disability community, if we were either born with our disability or injured at a very young age, we have all experienced. And it's hard. It's hard wanting to fit in and dealing with your own body image. Like, I know for me, I never wanted to look disabled, even though I used a chair. I never wanted any straps on my feet or anything. And I wanted to see if I could look normal. What I called normal back then. And so looking normal just made me look a little bit weird, because my feet were constantly falling out of my chair, off of my footrest, and it just didn't look good, and it didn't feel good either. So all that to say, you guys, I would highly, highly recommend both The Chance to Fly and Cut Loose to you guys. Please go listen or read these books. I personally would encourage you to listen to the audiobook, because Ali brings so much more life to the story and to the pages, and she is herself a member of our disabled community, so you're getting not only a story about a disabled person, but you're getting it from the perspective of a disabled person. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope that you do want to go read these books. This is the second podcast in a series that I will be doing in honor of my cousin, Veronica Caminetti. Like I said in my first episode of these episodes that I did a little while back. I think it was on January 2nd that I did my first episode. She had said that she would love to know what I was reading. So I thought I would start with the 2 easiest books. So that I could just, I listened to the whole thing of each one of the books. But I wanted to just be able to kind of skim through the books and really pull the points that resonated with me. And I hope that it resonates with you, whether you're disabled or not, and that it does really make you look at things a different way. We all need opportunities and accessibility, no matter what our bodies are like. So with that in mind, you guys, I hope you enjoy the books. And I hope that you guys are having a beautiful, blessed day. Like I said, this is the second in the series. And I think I'm going to call this series, What Are You Listening To? Or What Are You Reading? I don't know yet. Maybe What Are You Listening To? Because I don't physically read. Listening is just a better way of actually taking in a book for me. So this is my second book in the series. My second book in the series, and my second episode in this series. I love you guys, and I will talk to you later. And I'm getting tongue-tied, so I am going to leave you guys now. But I hope you would join me soon for the next one, for the next episode. And of course, the next episode of the What Are You Reading series, or What Are You Listening To series. I don't know what my third book is going to be. So when I know that, I will let you know. I'll talk to you later. Have a beautiful, blessed day. God bless. Bye-bye.